All right, the title of this is When the Chaperone is Gone and the Crop is Grown. And it'll make more sense as we get into it. That's our text, Second Chronicles 24. It'll take us a while to get there. So you can mark it, and then we'll go study the rest of the Bible and then come back to it. That will be our final example of all the principles we learn elsewhere. So to begin with, go to Hosea chapter 8. Hosea 8, verse 7. Hosea 8, verse 7. Bible says, "For they have sown the wind, and they," the next word, "shall." Now, you know what shall is? That's the Ten Commandments. Thou shalt do this, thou shalt not do that. So you know it's a command. It's a definite. He says, "And they shall reap." I got to slow down again. What's that word? The whirlwind. That's not the way we would say it. We would say they will reap a whirlwind. He didn't say a whirlwind. He said the. It's a definite article. There's a specific whirlwind of the Lord that comes. That's his anger. He says when they've done this, it's a fact. Something is a result of that. This is the principle of sowing and reaping. Job 4. Job 4, verse 8. Job 4, verse 8. He says, "Even as I have seen, they that plow in iniquity and sow wickedness reap the same." Well, duh. Now, we understand that. If you go out and you plant corn, tomatoes don't come up. But people don't realize that with their life. They think they can live a life of wickedness and ignoring God. Then all of a sudden, when the crop starts to grow and things are falling apart in their life, they expect God to suddenly come in and fix everything. Well, you just sowed something. There's going to be some reaping. The plant's going to grow. Doesn't mean God can't cause a drought and kill your harvest. That's good. Maybe he will. But by and large, you're going to get what you've sown. It's going to be in kind. Look at it in Hebrews 10, not Hebrews, Hosea 10. Y'all love Hosea, so we'll stay there a while. Hosea 10, verse 13. It says, "You have plowed wickedness, you have reaped iniquity." Oh, something changed. You plowed something, wickedness, and you reaped something different than you plowed. That's a fact. When you go out and you plant a kernel of corn, you know what comes up? A whole bunch of ears of corn with a whole bunch more on it. Okay, that's a fact too. When you head in one direction, it multiplies. You build where you spend your energy. If you want to build a business, you spend more time doing it and it'll flourish. Same with wickedness. You want to do wickedness, it's going to multiply into iniquity when the crop comes in. He says, where'd we stop? You plowed wickedness, you've reaped iniquity. You've eaten the fruit of lies, because thou didst trust in thy way, and the multitude of thy mighty men. That is, you trust in anything besides God, it'll crumble on purpose, because it's all a lie. The Bible says, "Let God be true and every man a liar." At some point, you're going to realize men are liars. Maybe not on purpose. They didn't lie on purpose, but they're not truth. God is truth. Amen. And God will leave just enough fleas on all these dogs so that you can realize they ain't the master. Look at it in Proverbs 22. Proverbs 22, verse 8. He says, "He that soweth iniquity," almost sounds like something we've already read, "shall reap" something different. Vanity. Therefore, you can see this one going on all the time. This is where people spend their time, is vanity, things that don't matter. They sit around and talk about anything but something that matters. A fruitful conversation is one that reverts back to Scripture, something God has had to say. He says, and the rod of his anger shall fail. That is, man can't change anything. You could sit around and talk about vain things, something that has just made you mad, and you can't stand it. It could be true or it could be false. But you know what? You can get all worked up about it, but you can't change it. There's nothing you can do about it. It doesn't matter how angry you get. This is one of the worst things that has happened with our popularization of news media. We can pick up news on what's going on 3,000 miles away from us. We don't know anybody over there, and we can't do anything about it. All we can do is sit over here and get mad about it. You know what? It's vain. The rod of our anger will fail. That is, you can get all mad, but you can't actually do anything. Okay? That's sowing and reaping. Look at it in Galatians 6. Galatians 6, verse 7. Now, I'm going to go off topic, I think, here for just a second, but it's here. Galatians 6, verse 7. He says, be not deceived. God is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that, our word we've seen a million times, shall he also reap. That is, if a man does one thing and expects something else out of it, that would make God a liar. If you sow one thing and your crop produces something else, that'd make God a liar, because he says, if you sow, you will reap. Good or bad. That's either way. You decide what you're going to sow. He didn't decide that for you. He says, now, look at our text here. I've never really realized this until now. Now, the verse after it, we do realize what that is. Verse 8, Galatians 6, verse 8. For he that soweth to the flesh shall of the flesh reap corruption, but he that soweth to the Spirit shall of the Spirit reap life everlasting. That is, these are the two types of crops you can grow. You can sow the flesh's crop, or you can sow the Spirit's crop. What I've never done is look for the context. Context is important. So, go back to verse 6. Here's the context. Let him that is taught in the word communicate unto him that teacheth in all good things. You know what the context of this is? It's giving. That's the context. Communicate. Now, it doesn't have to be money. I know everybody thinks it's money. It's not always money. Rarely is it money. He says, you give to the one who's given to you spiritually. Then he goes on and he says, if you don't, here's what you've done. You've sown to the flesh. Ooh. You will pay somebody. You'll put your time and energy into things that are spiritual, or you'll put your time and energy into things that are physical, fleshly. You can look at your bank account and tell where your focus is and what plants you've been planting. That's the crop that's about to come in. Now, let's get off there because that felt kind of convicting. Hosea. Hosea. Let's get something easy in Hosea. Hosea 10. Hosea 10. Hosea 10, verse 12. Another explanation of the types of crop you can have. Hosea 10, verse 12. Sow to yourselves in righteousness, reap in mercy. Ooh, isn't that a good one? We need all of that we can get. I need 4 or 5 fields full so I can get me all the mercy I can get. He says, break up your fallow ground. That is, You don't have enough property yet. With what you're dealing with right now, you don't have enough property to plant enough righteousness to get the mercy you need. So break up some of that fallow ground. For instance, most people say, I just don't have time to do such and such. Usually it's to read my Bible, because that's the most basic element of being a Christian, is you read your Bible, study it. Most people say they don't have time for it. Well, you've got time for it, because we all got the same amount of time. You just won't make yourself be disciplined enough to do it. He said in this verse, it's time to break up the fallow ground. Find a place that you can plant something good, because you're going to need some mercy. Now, that's a crop you can get. He says, where did I stop? Break up your fallow ground, for it is time to seek the Lord till he come and rain righteousness upon you. So that's when you're employed in. Now, this planting season, he says, is going to last your whole lifetime. He says, until God comes back, start breaking up some ground. Start planting the right things. So you do that for the rest of your life. Look at it in 2 Corinthians 9, and we'll be done with running the scriptures, and we'll go back to our text. 2 Corinthians 9, verse 6. 2 Corinthians 9, 6. He says, but this I say, he which soweth sparingly, the word we've seen, shall reap also sparingly. Now, what he did not say was you could dabble into a little bit of this and not have any crops come in. No, if you plant it, it will grow. Doesn't matter how much of it you planted, you're going to get a crop one way or the other. If you sow sparingly, you will reap sparingly. You won't have crop failure. It will come in. Even if you just dabbled a little bit into the wickedness, you're going to get a crop full of wickedness. Same righteously. If you just did a little bit of righteousness, you'll get a righteous reward. But you'll get in proportion to what you've sown. He says, and he which soweth bountifully shall reap also bountifully. So it's our choice. Now let's get an Old Testament example. Here's our text. 2 Chronicles 24. 2 Chronicles 24. We laid enough groundwork to have a message. 2 Chronicles 24. Verse 1. Joash was 7 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 40 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Ziba of Beersheba. And Joash did that which was right in the sight of the Lord. Now look at the rest of this. All the days of Jehoiada the priest. That's a bad phrase. It says he was a part-time right doer. When somebody was watching, he was doing right. You know why? Verse 1, he's 7 years old. How much wickedness can a 7-year-old get into? Well, plenty. Plenty. But he had a chaperone. Jehoiada the priest was chaperoning him. He was the one raising him. You know why? His dad got killed. His dad got killed going up to help the son of Ahab. Jehu came in and mopped the floor, killed both lines of kings. And you know who his mom was? His mom took the throne because her son just died. That was Athaliah. The only reason Joash made it through is because Jehoiada, the priest, and his wife, who was the daughter of the king that just died, Athaliah's son, they rescued him. They've been hiding him for 6 years. And on the 7th, They say now it's time to have your coming out party. We're going to put him on the throne and we're going to cut her in pieces. And that's what they did. Athaliah leaves at this point with she thinks she's coming in for a special celebration, and it's going to be a celebration for them, not her. She has just killed all this guy's brothers, thinking she had exterminated the line, but she didn't. Now, here's this guy. He's being raised at 7 years old. The high priest is bringing him out to the public to show this is the one that I've been saving for y'all, and I've been hiding him away, and we've been rearing him, and he's doing right. They put him on the throne. Now, the Bible says that as long as he was in authority under Jehoiada, he was doing right. But when it came his turn to be in authority, he went wild. Rumstinger or whatever they call it. That thing right there. He went nuts. He did. Because he didn't realize even when it doesn't appear that you're planting a crop, you're planting a crop. Obviously, this 7-year-old has been thinking some things over. When he comes to the throne, we'll see exactly how it happens, but he's already planting a crop, regardless of how he's acted before. And it doesn't matter when you plant a crop in the field, you may not be able to tell that anything's growing. That's my problem. If I'm going to plant something, I want it to be up, like Burger King. Bring me my order. And it takes forever. And you don't know if it's going to come up right. And the weeds always come up 1,000 times faster than the thing you want. He says in our text here, look at verse 13. Look at verse 13 to 14 there. You're going to look at, I didn't write the whole thing out, but you'll find a phrase in there where he says, and they offered burnt offerings in the house of the Lord continually. Here's what's going on. As they're doing their ministry here, the temple has been destroyed by that wicked woman Athaliah. And so Jehoiada, being the high priest, you know what his focus is? The temple. That's where he works, or he's supposed to. Hadn't been able to do it when Athaliah was running the show. Now Athaliah's gone. They're going to go in there and clean it up. They're going to fix it up. It's been in disarray. Nobody's got any money to fix it up. He announces to everybody, we're taking up money right now. We're going to fix this place up. And they get more money than they need. And so they start fixing it up. Here's what the result is. And they offered burnt offerings in the house of the Lord continually. That same phrase. All the days of Jehoiada the priest. Why is it just Jehoiada the priest? Wouldn't it be all the days of the king? Nope. When Jehoiada the priest dies, King Joash doesn't care. Apathy. He's been sowing it all his life. He's got somebody who's taking all the responsibility and has been caring for him. He shouldn't even be alive. He should be dead like the rest of his brothers. But he's taking it for granted. That sows a crop. Sows a vain crop. He's about to reap some vanity. Look at it in verse 15. Verse 15. But Jehoiada waxed old and was full of days when he died. 130 years old was he when he died. I'd say he's pretty old. I think God made him last 130 years just for keeping the country okay and raising Joash. Jehoiada. Verse 17. Now after the death of Jehoiada, so after he's died, this is where things change, came the princes of Judah. Whoa. Not the priest. You know who has been his number one counselor and right-hand man has been the high priest, wouldn't it be priests that show up to comfort him? No. You know who showed up was the powerful folk, the princes, the heads of the tribes, the honorable men, supposedly, of the land. They show up. You know why? They got a vested interest in authority. They want it, and they ain't got it, and they know who does, and they know how to get it. Now, these men show up. This is, I call this power over truth. The world's phrase is truth to power. They've done this in reverse. They could care less about truth. They want the power. He says in our verse, and made obeisance to the king. Then the king hearkened unto them. When they're ready to butter him up, he's ready to fall in line. They got him. Just by buttering up. They made obeisance to him so that they fall down and worship him. And then he's ready to listen to whatever it is they have to say. Bad news. Verse 18. And they left the house of the Lord of their fathers. That's another bad phrase. This includes the king. And they left the house of the Lord, not their God. It's the Lord of their fathers. He wasn't theirs. He wasn't their Lord. They hadn't made him personally theirs. It was someone their fathers had worshipped, not them. Look back at verse 4. Well, you can look at the whole phrases, or paraphrase, or paragraph is verse 4 to 14. This is what these people and the king, it says the princes and the king, they all worked hard to restore the temple. And now they've turned their back on it. They were the ones responsible for all this. They were involved in building it. They were all a bunch of hypocrites and phonies. The only buddy holding anything together, the glue to the factory here, was Jehoiada. When he was gone, it just all fell apart. Verse 19. Yet he sent prophets, that's what God does, but they would not give ear. Verse 9. These are the same princes who rejoiced to give money. Now, when it's only attention that's required, they cannot give ear. God sends a witness down there. He sends his word out to warn them, hey, you're heading down a bad path. They can't pay attention. That's usually where I am. I'm so poor, I can't pay attention. Here, these people are willing to give. They can give to any program. They can build a big city and big temple and make everything beautiful. However, when it comes to adhering to a commandment, woe, and when God says woe, they say no. Look at it in verse 20. Zechariah. Now, who is this? This is the son of Jehoiada. We're going to see there's more people here than just him, but he's a prophet. He shows up, and he's going to let them have a message from God. The son of Jehoiada. So his dad was the one who was the best friend and guarded the life of Joash all those days, and now all of a sudden, after his dad's dead, the Spirit of God comes in on him, and it says, go warn the king that he's heading down a dangerous path. Okay, he says unto them, thus saith God, why transgress ye? Now, here's what he says. This is not something that's going to happen. This is something that's already happened. The Lord, he hath also forsaken you. It's almost too late at this point. He says, God's walked away from you. They, over and over, tells us that they turned their back on him. They turned away from him. Okay, that's planting something. That's sowing a field. Well, the crop is already starting to come in, and it says God's forsaken you. Verse 21. They don't like somebody telling them the truth. And they conspired against him, Zechariah, and stoned him with stones. Ooh, ouch. Gets even worse. At the commandment of the king. The king said, the son of the man who saved my life and gave me good advice as long as he was alive, kill because he's telling the truth. Kill. Now, he killed more than him. We're going to see in a minute. He was killing off all the prophets. If they say anything negative, they're off with their head. Okay. Seems like now his Athaliah is showing. He's acting like the reason that he was king to begin with. The only reason he was king is because he was the only one left. Athaliah had destroyed everybody who was going to be in opposition to her. Because if those boys had grown up, they would be king, and she would no longer be the only ruling royal in the land. He's done the same thing with the prophets of God. I'm going to kill them all off so that nobody hears anything negative, just like Mama has done, or Grandma. Verse 22. Thus Joash the king remembered not the kindness which Jehoiada his father had done to him, but slew his son. And when he died, he said, the Lord look upon it and require it. So, what's going on here? This is typical. You start sowing the wrong things in your field, it controls the way you think. He suddenly couldn't remember. His reason for being was this boy's dad. Wouldn't you have a conversation with him? You know, he owes his life literally to this boy's father. Yet he cannot give any loyalty to the family because now he's going to stone this kid and anybody else who speaks against him. Now, the boy does something as he dies. He says, God, don't forget it. Don't overlook it. Fix it. Make that crop come on in. Get the what do they call it? Combined out. Go ahead and rev that thing up. Put the oil in there. Let's get to work. He says, verse 23. Here comes the crop. Syria came up. You know what they did? They destroyed. Must have been a field of cotton. You know what happens with a cotton field? You pluck it all. Usually at harvest time, you know what happens to the field? It gets destroyed because they're taking something. This is exactly what Syria does. Syria comes in and they take. They're destroying what's left and they're taking what they want. Crops coming in. Verse 24. Here's why. Because they had forsaken the Lord. Forsake God. And it says, oh, now it's time to pick this crop. And he did. Verse 25. Here's how the story ends. His own servants conspired against him for the blood of the, do you see that next word? Sons of Jehoiada. It wasn't just Zechariah that he had killed. It was all the sons. Just like Mama Athaliah had done. Woo. But you know what happens to him? He gets killed too. His servants say, that's not justice. How dare he do that? We'll fix this problem. We'll go kill him. The Hatfields and the McCoys. Let's get it going. Now, there's something to this. This is Old Testament here. And The blood can't be cleansed from the land unless you take the life of the one who killed innocent people. So they're trying to cleanse the land here by killing somebody who murdered someone. However, this just goes to show he planted a crop, it's begun to grow, and now it comes in full fruition all the way through, and now he's killed by his servants. Galatians 6. This will be our conclusion. Galatians 6, verse 9. This story could have gone 180 degrees in the other direction. After, what's his name? Jehoiada had died. If the king had just said, no, we've learned the right things to do and the right way to go, and he had enforced it amongst his people, then it could have been a completely different outcome. He says in Galatians 6, verse 9, and let us not be weary in well-doing. It could be his problem was this. Doing the right thing is not easy, or everybody would be doing it. It's going to wear you out. I mean, other than the fact that your flesh fights against it, everything else is going to fight against it too. It's going to be difficult. He says, and let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season our word we've seen before, shall, it's a fact, reap if we faint not. So do the right thing, cultivate the harvest you want to bring into the barn, and you'll get it.